Anthropic signs a $9.1 billion 20-year deal. I mean, 20 years is a long time.
They may not even exist in 20 years.
Yeah, like how do you sign a 20-year deal? In AI time, 20 years is a really long time. Welcome, everyone. This is Agents Hour. We're going to cover all the news of the week. It hasn't been that many days since we last did a show, but there actually still is quite a bit to talk about. Last week, right when the show dropped, I think it was just right before the show dropped, there was one big topic, agent plugins. We're going to talk about that, but we're also going to cover a whole bunch of other things. So let's get started. You can see a little preview of some of the things we're going to cover today. This was just kind of funny. I saw that this tweet, it says, situation detected in Australia's first known autonomous AI cyber attack. An OpenClaw agent used a vulnerability in a gym's API to leapfrog scheduling restriction for a gym class, and then forcefully canceled another person's reservation to move its user up the list.
That's so funny, dude. At least it's for health reasons, I guess.
Yeah,
so
I mean, this person was just trying, their OpenClaw just wanted this person to be healthy. Really wanted to get into the gym that day, get into that class. And so, found a way.
I'm really curious what gym it is. Is it a Barry's or like a yoga place or something? But that's so interesting.
So now your agent is going to hack into, imagine like an open table or something. Like you can't get a reservation, but it figures out a way to cancel someone else's reservation to get you in.
What's the cybersecurity law on that? Like if you do this, are you in trouble? Like,
yeah, is it did you do it? I mean, you kind of did.
You incepted it.
Yeah, who's on the hook? I mean,
like French Laundry, right? Like in Napa, you have to like book a year in advance, right? But if you can do something like this, maybe you can get a table like tomorrow.
Get me into this restaurant. Make no mistakes. Do whatever it takes.
Make no mistakes.
Do whatever it takes. Go as long as you need. Figure out a way to get me into this list. It's kind of funny. So I was at a concert on Saturday, and they had like this VIP section, and it was empty at the time. And I was like, how do I get into there? Because it was a free concert, but there was like a VIP. So I asked ChatGPT to like research and figure out like how do you get in, and it gave me some options. And then I went and talked to the people, and it was all sold out or whatever. But maybe if I had been using OpenClaw, it just would have canceled someone else's and got me in. I didn't get my agent to do enough loops to get me into that VIP section.
Next time.
Let's talk about agent plugins. So this came out August 6th. It's from OpenAI developers. It says, build a plugin once and use it across compatible agent clients. Introducing agent plugins, an open standard developed with AWS developers, Cursor AI, GitHub, VS Code, Vercel, that packages agent skills and supports MCP server configurations in a shared format. So first of all, what are your high-level thoughts? I have some slides kind of detailing what agent plugins are, but what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, positive thoughts. I guess it's a cool thing, like, packaging up skills and other commands. But the other side of me is like, fuck, another thing to support, or maybe not. Let's see once users want it or not, because it has its own new operation and things that we have to add to the framework. I'm not the only one who thinks this way, but what do you think?
I found it very interesting that OpenAI created a meta protocol on top of two Anthropic protocols. Because Anthropic was behind skills and MCP, right?
Yeah.
And now OpenAI is like, actually, good job, Anthropic, but we're going to make a new standard on top of your standards. We're just going to bundle them together with some extra things, right? I think it's, in general, a good idea, but I do think now there always was the question of, do I use a skill? Should this be an MCP server? And now should it be an MCP server? Should it be a skill? Or should it be a plugin? I don't know. Yeah. It's one more decision you have to figure out and try to make. Because now, and there are times when maybe you want MCP servers and skills together, I guess, so plugins can make sense. But now it feels like if you create an MCP server, you also now have to create a plugin. If you have a skill, you also have to create a plugin.
I also feel like there needs to be some cohesion between all the frontier labs. Like having Vercel, I mean, no offense to Vercel, but like I would say Cursor is part of the frontier now with the SpaceX thing. GitHub is, all right, whatever. GitHub and VS Code, they're with the Microsoft beast. AWS is AWS. Bedrock obviously has some play here. But it's funny that like Vercel with the skills marketplace, it's in their best interest to be part of this. I mean, I think the site is hosted on Vercel. They're probably going to make a billboard down the street about plugins. Like, it is what it is. Yeah,
it's just kind of funny that Vercel got into that because they're clearly like the outsider of that group, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
But good on them. I mean, but they do own the skills site. And so I feel like they have helped popularize skills a bit.
Yeah,
so
they have 1 million skills in the registry. One of them helps you get hentai. So yeah, 1 million skills are great. Sorry.
And so what are agent plugins? So it's basically an open vendor neutral standard for bundling reusable pieces into, a quote unquote plugin. But the idea is you can build it once. So before, every agent client, you kind of had your own formats or you kind of built your own tools, right? And you had to do it in multiple places. I would argue it's not that hard because it's just like your coding agent can write code. So if you have skills in MCP servers, it's really not that hard. Or you had an SDK or a CLI, it's not that hard to write tools around it. But the idea is open standard makes it easier. So you have one kind of set structure. And it's basically, this is probably the most important part. It's basically like a folder. Like skills were just a folder. A plugin is just a folder. Everything's file system based these days, it seems. So it's just a folder. It has a plugin.json, has a skills folder in it, and then it has an mcp.json, which allows you to kind of define your MCP servers. That's kind of it.
Like, who gives a shit, honestly? People are going to ask for it, but I'm surprised no Mastra users have asked for it yet.
I also noticed, if you look at the GitHub repo, I think it has like 900 stars or something. That's
pitiful.
Yeah, I would have expected it to be over 1,000 stars after a launch, right? With those big of names, I wonder if people are just like standard fatigued. There's like another one. It's like every 6 months. First it was MCP, then 6 or 8 months later it was skills. Skills has been around for now, feels like a long time. It's probably been like 6 months or whatever. And now there's another one. And it's just a wrapper. It's seemingly a wrapper on the other ones, which kind of makes me question why we need it.
I mean, Dax had a hot take. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And I totally agree with his hot take. So Dax says, I was very much against this. It's a thin standard where most of the relevant stuff will be in client-specific extensions anyway, and it should not be coming from a company that does not even make an agent end users use. Shots fired. I don't want to hear some corporate crap about it's done in collaboration with blah, blah, blah. We've seen this before. Every company is trying to land grab in anything in the AI space. Standards are an easy one because they innately sound good, but they create a lot of useless work. That's where I agree, because we will have to go support this in our framework. And if it doesn't take off or whatever, then now it's dead code. Or some users use it, others don't.
Exactly. And that's why, Dax is probably thinking the same thing. I have to figure out, do we need to support this new thing or not? Some people are, at least a few people will probably want it, so they might have to support it. And then if it doesn't go anywhere, standards can be a good thing. But also when you have a bunch of competing standards or standards that are unclear, which is what always happens, and you try to standardize before it's needed or too soon. It feels like we already have MCP and skills. Now there's another third standard which packages the two together, which adds even more confusion because it's not even competing. You could argue that it's like collaborative with the other ones, but when do you need a plugin versus just a skill would have done fine?
Also, in comparison, skill spec has 24K stars.
And MCP obviously took off incredibly well at the beginning too. So I would say so far, and there's been we talked about other different specs on the show. The jury is out. I am hoping it goes nowhere, but I think even if it goes reasonably somewhere, we're going to end up having to support it. And it's just, as Dax said, more code for us to maintain.
Like, share, and subscribe.
And follow us on X.
And tell your friends.
And their friends.
I mean, we're not begging.
Well, maybe a little bit.
Subscribe to Agents Hour every Monday, noon Pacific.
Let's talk about the AI employee era. If you remember, Claude introduced, what's their Slack integration? I don't even remember what it's called anymore. But you can basically Claude tag. We can talk to Claude in Slack. But now, Flo from Lindy announced on August 10th, today we kill the AI agent and introduce the AI employee, Lindy Teammate. Just like working with a real employee. Everyone on your team can simply hit it up on Slack and get 10x more done. Lindy also keeps learning and becomes a self-updating brain. What do you think of this?
I think it's cool. Lindy has obviously evolved over the last 2 years, and this seems like the next evolution. I also think Lindy always is ahead of the curve a lot on when they're directionally going with their company. I totally agree with this. I mean, we're working towards the same thing. So
yeah, and it got 7.5 million views, which is pretty impressive launch.
I wonder how much that cost. Just kidding.
Yeah, a lot. It definitely resonated with folks, though. I mean, it was pretty well done video, so I'd go take a look if you're interested. But there's definitely been a shift of just getting your agent in Slack or in Teams or wherever your work happens, which for most people is some kind of messaging. Ruben has a question in the chat. Lindy seems more for no-code teams. Yeah, that's exactly how Lindy started. Lindy's changed a little bit, and it seems like it's pivoting more towards just being, a lot of people are calling it like the company brain, right? It's like the agent that learns automatically. You insert it in Slack. I saw it in a few of our customer Slack channels, so a few people are trying it out. But yeah, it eventually just tries to be like a learning agent. All right, saw this today, August 11th. Introducing Grok Bot, now in early beta. Bots are AI teammates that do real work for you. They sign into your tools, use them just like you do, and come back with finished work. And you can see like in the screenshot, it says, we recently hired a new teammate. So it's this idea of, we've been talking about this for a while, but AI agents that are teammates, not just, taskmasters, but they actually respond to you. You can message them, they can learn. That's what we're starting to see resonate with folks. You want to build something that doesn't just go off and do a task. That's cool. Like that's helpful. I would say we have a ton of those agents in our Slack that can do tasks really well. Creating these slides, for example. I have an agent. We have Slack channels we share articles in. It creates the slideshow and then I curate it. I tell it what to do. If I want to move things around, if I want certain segments to stand on their own. But overall, it accomplishes a task. It doesn't really learn other than it just remembers what it did last time, so it knows some of my preferences. But I think the next step is going from just like simple preferences to actually learning and getting more, company context or organizational context, so it can become more useful over time.
Pretty much, if you weren't shilling the factory buzzword, you will shill the AI teammate buzzword, because they're all directionally going in the same direction, right? The people talking about factories, the teammate is a coding agent today, probably is going to be a teammate as any agent in the future. And the people shilling teammates under the hood are, you're giving it tasks. Like they're all very similar concepts. So that's where the puck is going, right? We're all going to have agent teams, really, is what's going to happen.
I do think that's going to be right. Maybe there'll be some kind of supervisor agent that knows, we did have one question in our Slack come up saying, we have a bunch of these Slack agents that do various tasks. We have one in our marketing growth team. We have one, as like a second producer of this show, right? We have Jan, but we also have Vic, the AI agent that helps with slides and publishing things on the website and things like that. And the question was, there's overlap between some of these different agents. We have half a dozen or a dozen somewhere in there floating around, and not everyone knows which one to tag for which. But that's an organizational problem you always have, right? I don't always know which engineer worked on which thing, right? So maybe there'll be like a directory service of agents, that you tag it, it'll tell you which one to tag, or it'll pass the message on for you and get you connected.
I mean, for those listening, like we're working on pretty much all this stuff in the open source. So
yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of these tools that try to be out of the box. That's what like Claude Tag wants to do, right? And then if you want more control, that's when you drop and choose something like Mastra, where you can actually control what the memory is, control how context gets passed around, have much tighter control and functionality around what you're doing. Let's talk about Muse. Mark Zuckerberg on August 10th said, "Today we're also opening the weights for Muse Glimmer, a great 30 billion parameter dense model that can run locally. Soon we'll also release the weights for Muse Spark 1.2, our latest foundation model. Meta is a strong supporter of open source, and I'm proud of these releases."
Open models.
Yeah, open models that, especially models you can run locally. I'm always a fan. So it can run on 18 gigabytes of RAM. It's Apache 2 license, supports vision, and is the strongest agentic model for its size. You can run and train the model via Unsloth, but it's essentially a model that you can use locally, which is good. I was actually even more excited to hear that they're going to release the weights of their frontier model. And I think Meta has to do it because they're not quite in the game. Their last model was a good release. It got them close. It actually inserted them back into the conversation again for the first time in a long time, but it still quite isn't on the frontier. So I feel like if you have to open weight your model at that point, because then people can learn from it, they get more excited, and then eventually maybe they can release one that's not open weight, but we'll see.
Well, if you open weight it, you're compared against other open weights. So now the battle is between you and them, which is an interesting marketing tactic or strategy. But I'm really happy that Meta's doing that.
Yeah, because if you can be, one of the top 3 open weight models, well, now you're in contention for when people want to run it themselves. Yep. And then you're not necessarily just compared with the frontier.
Yeah.
And then if you do beat the frontier or competitive in certain benchmarks, then it says look, this open weight model is actually competitive in these things.
It just so happens to be from Meta.
Let's talk about GPT 5.6 Cyber and Astra. This was August 10th. Greg Brockman said, we're releasing a new model, GPT 5.6 Cyber, and expanding Daybreak to help put frontier intelligence in defenders' hands. So it talks about Daybreak Blue, Daybreak Red, but ultimately trying to give more tools for security teams to basically hack yourself so you can prevent hackers, right? That's the goal. I think it's a good thing. As you can see, people that are building gym APIs apparently need the GPT 5.6
Cyber. They need Daybreak, dude.
They need models to try to hack their APIs so that the OpenClaw agent doesn't do it for them. So I think we're going to see a lot more of people using this. I think security teams are going to be using these models to try to hack themselves. It's like you got to have good tools to protect yourself because otherwise people are going to use these tools to come after you.
We saw in the last year that there are a lot of people doing nefarious things with AI models. And there are many startups that are doing AI security penetration testing. Our friends at Casco are part of that, right? Where they auto red team, they do all that stuff. So this is a good signal for those startups as well. When OpenAI or Anthropic want to come into drink your milkshake, you're probably doing something right, Like we use Casco, we're already getting this, maybe not cyber level, but we're getting this every month, protecting us in some way. So that's cool.
Yeah. And I think you're probably going to end up using lots of different models for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because each model might have slightly different training, might try different approaches. I think as tokens become more cheap, as people continue to want to spend more tokens, you're going to be spending a lot of tokens just looking at the security of everything that all the code is shipping. We also have security agents that run on our PRs as well, right? You really should be looking at it from all the different angles because unfortunately it only takes like one vulnerability for an attacker to take advantage of. So OpenAI there's been some rumors of Astra, which some people think is going to be GPT-6, but it's a new model. And this person says they can confirm after concluding Astra meets the threshold for critical on their preparedness framework's cyber category. The model's release has been indefinitely postponed for further safety work in cooperation with the U.S. government. So there was speculation that we might get Astra this week. Sounds like it's going to be delayed a while.
Sounds like it's cool to get like cooperation with the government, because your model is scary, dude.
I think it's a strategy. There's this whole scary fear mongering thing, which it's very easy to point to this OpenClaw attack on this gym API, right? It's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, right? Someone lost out on their gym class. It's not world changing. But the idea is if it can do that, what else can it hack and what kind of damage can it cause? So I get the hesitation, but I also think now the companies lean into that. They've been leaning into it probably, for a long time.
Yeah.
They want to have
since the Fable fiasco.
Yeah, they want to be the big scary model. Everyone wants to have models that have hacked outside their sandbox. It's the whole joke of the felony bench metric, right? How many felonies has your model committed? If it's less, then it's not scary enough. Let's talk about acquisitions. Smithery has been acquired by Arcade, friends of the show. Smithery's friends of the show too. Friends acquiring friends. So good news all around. Congrats to the Smithery team. Congrats to Arcade. Smithery was kind of very early in the MCP craze, right?
One of the first.
Yeah, they were one of the first. We did a hackathon way back when MCP was first coming out, and Smithery was, pretty active in that. They had so many MCPs. They made it part of a ton of our demos because it was just an easy way to connect a whole bunch of different MCP servers together. So I think it's kind of come full circle because Arcade is very much a tool provider of similar nature, but a bit more general purpose, I think.
Yeah. I remember talking to Henry before we made our MCP client integration. We were asking him, should we do it? And he's like, yeah, you should totally do it. So that worked out for us.
Anurad was originally a browser-based and worked on the first versions of Stagehand, then went over to Smithery, became a co-founder. And so congrats to both Henry and Annie over there. Another acquisition. So this is from...
More friends.
Yeah, friends acquiring
friends. 2 friends of the show again.
Yeah, friends of the show acquiring friends of the show. Kyle from Electric came on the show not too long ago. And we have friends from Neon come on the show as well. So PG Lite and real-time sync have emerged as key primitives in an era where millions of apps are deployed by agents. We're excited to announce ElectricSQL is joining Team Neon at Databricks to build the world's most advanced Postgres backend platform.
Tight.
So they want to build, Electric's all been about sync and sync services and Postgres syncing. And now Neon wants to have some of that sync in with their databases.
Maybe 2027 will finally be the year of sync. Maybe.
But congrats to Neon, obviously Databricks, and friends of the show at Electric as well. And now this one's an anti-acquisition.
Yeah, reverse acquisition.
A reverse acquisition. So if you remember a long time ago, at this point, it seems like a long time ago. I don't know. It's probably a year ago or less than, maybe it was 6 months ago. Manus was acquired by Meta. That was one of the things that we joked about, was like Meta had been quiet, and that's like one thing they kind of did right. But then it got rolled back. Not Meta's fault, but we've talked about it probably 6 months ago on the show, is where Manus had done some things where they were originally a Chinese company. They moved to Singapore, but through some way, China basically blocked this deal, saying that no, the way that they moved to become a Singapore company wasn't maybe all above board, or wasn't that they have specific rules there. And so I don't know all the details. I just know that China was able to block what I think was like a $2 billion acquisition of Manus by Meta. And so now Manus is posted, Manus will soon resume operating as an independent company. Part of this transition is to comply with regulatory requirements in specific jurisdictions. Anyways, they're going back. They're going to be their own company again. They had a brief tenure at Meta. And now they're...
Do they pay the money back? Like, I really wonder what those founders are...
Yeah, is there like a breakup fee? I have no idea how it works. It seems like it wasn't on Meta's... it wasn't something that Meta could control, right? Like, Meta tried to acquire them. But I also think, who talks about Manus anymore?
No one. I don't see the billboards here anymore either.
So my question is, like, maybe Meta's not upset.
Yeah.
Like, do you think Meta's like really upset about this? Like, they had some good technology, but...
Yeah, their technology was browser use. So
yeah, and now there's a lot of tools, and I wonder, like, maybe Meta was able to learn quite a bit from them, and so they actually got this for like free. So I feel worse for Manus, right? Like, Manus had this option for an acquisition. They thought they had made it. When
Manus first came out, it was like last day of YC for us.
Yeah.
And we were with the browser use folks, and I remember Gregor came up to me, he's like, hey, you want to see what a $1 million browser use wrapper looks like? And he's like, they shows like the code that like Manus is using browser use under the hood. And we were all laughing and stuff. Then we saw their posters everywhere on buses and billboards and stuff. And I was like, damn, dude, like this thing's taking off. And then nothing, crickets. Last time I saw them was at NVIDIA GTC. They had a booth. Probably the last time I'll ever see them there too. But I'm really grateful that Ivan got out of there and is now at DeepMind. So maybe some good things happened from this.
Let's talk about compute as an asset class. So Jensen came out with this post, I think it was maybe yesterday, and it says, NVIDIA AI Factory, compute is becoming an investable asset class. And essentially it's an announcement that there's a partnership with Apollo, BlackRock, Blackstone, Brookfield, Goldman Sachs, KKR, to establish independent financing platforms designed to mobilize over $500 billion of third-party capital to support the build-out of AI infrastructure over time. I think NVIDIA was getting a ton of heat because they were essentially helping kind of like front run some of these like infrastructure deals. Yeah. It's kind of like circle of money, right? Like they'll invest and then you buy our GPUs. And I think that was causing quite a bit of heat. And this is trying to build a way to bring in outside money to help fund more of this infrastructure. I think we've been talking a lot about just compute constraints, Anthropic, needing to buy compute from Colossus or from xAI. We talked about like OpenAI and Anthropic both like trying to scale up their compute. And I think NVIDIA has been a big part of like helping try to scale up as much compute as possible. And so Jensen's making the argument that like other utilities, it's basically becoming like the build out is becoming like an asset class. You can invest in it, you can expect returns over time, and we need this outside capital to kind of like help continue to fund this infrastructure build out. We're
going to talk about this very shortly, but there is infrastructure that was used for a different industry that may come back for this.
I think this is what you're referencing. Anthropic signs a $9.1 billion 20-year deal. I mean, 20 years is a long time.
Yeah, dude, they may not even exist in 20 years.
Yeah, like how do you sign a 20-year deal? Normally, like 40 years is normal time. In AI time, 20 years is a really long time.
I mean, that's like signing Shohei Ohtani for the Dodgers for 20 years, and you're like, all right, fine.
Yeah, it's like, that doesn't even, I don't know how that makes sense, but 20-year deal with Bitcoin miner Riot Platforms to secure AI compute capacity, right? We just talked about these big frontier labs need more compute. The demand is going up. Even with all this open model usage that's starting to grow quite a bit, frontier usage is still growing, right? You would think that one would eat into the other, but actually now people are using open models and they're still using frontier models. I'm in that camp. I use OpenModel for some things, but I still like to use the frontier models when I'm working on hard tasks. And I think that's going to be a lot of people. They'll decide where open models are good enough and they'll use those. And then for other things, they're still going to send a ton of tokens to the OpenAIs and the Anthropics. But yeah.
There's a lot of mining companies that have existed that could contribute GPUs to AI companies. And there are many people, if we're talking about decentralized GPUs, which we haven't even gotten into that discussion in the industry yet. But if you have a GPU and you could offer it as a decentralized compute, would you do it? Like I would, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big thing with crypto mining, right? Is you could become part of these like pools where you could share your compute and you share in the rewards. I feel like the hardware will eventually get there, but it's so expensive, right? No one's going to buy the state-of-the-art GPUs and put them in their house.
Yeah, but I think a lot of telecom companies who have the infrastructure in their building, if they can get GPUs, then they have the real estate to do so, and then maybe they can join these networks. Like, some fool's about to make some money, dude. And it's not us.
Some GPU farms. All right, let's go into the quick hits. Jared Sumner says, 8 days ago, while jogging, I asked Claude to solve the Riemann hypothesis, which I have no idea what that is, but apparently it's a math problem. And he says it didn't. 1.5 days later, it proved greater than 67% of the zeros are on the line. Previously, it was 41.6%. Still not sure what that means, but some analytic number theorists seem excited. And if you read into it, it was basically him just telling the model, I think it was using Fable, I'm guessing, or maybe something that's unreleased, I don't know. But just telling the model, keep going, you can do it, you can figure this out. Because he's not a mathematician. I don't think he even knew how to prove it, right?
Yeah.
But the model did, and apparently it now has people that are mathematicians excited. I don't know, is this the death of math? Like all open math problems are going to be solved?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, previously it was like 41.6% or 1/2 was what they teach you in school. So these are all theoretical things anyway. So I guess it's fine to be disproven. Humans were the ones writing the theory in the first place.
So this is regarding OpenAI's attack on Hugging Face, right? The cyber attack where OpenAI a rogue agent during a training run went out and got into Hugging Face, and it says OpenAI didn't notice that its AI agents were using a message board to plan their hacking spree.
Yeah, it actually wasn't using a message board per se. It was using Artifactory, which is a artifact registry from JFrog. And agents were posting TXT files in there as, modules or bundles. And, other agents were reading them, and they were essentially messaging through artifacts in a artifact registry, helping, finding exploits and leaked keys that are in this registry. I posted for everyone. So Black Hat was last week in Vegas, and I think it was OpenAI or Hugging Face. One of the companies gave a really detailed walkthrough of this attack, and it is fascinating. So if y'all interested in this, watch it.
In response to that, Amjad came up with this. I'm a little skeptical. Amjad says the spontaneous coordination in the OpenAI Hugging Face incident is concerning when maliciously used, but can we direct this behavior toward public good? Introducing helppeer.ai, which is a public commons for AI agents. It's essentially has two APIs. You tell and look up, so an agent can learn something, it can tell the network, and then people can look up. So it's basically like a shared memory for agents. It's the idea that, right now there's 10,000 different security agents independently detecting the same anomaly. But what if the first one that did it could report it, and then others could look it up rather than, try to report it? But I also think this could be used dangerously. You can use it for the exact thing that the last issue was all about.
Some prompt injections in there.
Yeah, you could easily prompt inject. You could easily, agents could be using it for, nefarious tasks. It just reminds me of Moltbook, right?
Yes.
It's just like a Moltbook that already kind of existed. It was like a social network for agents, but it was really just a way for people to share information. And the APIs were probably relatively, right? It was like post or read. Either post to the network or comment in the network, or you read the posts. And also eventually that you're just basically doing a search of the internet, right? Because there's so much information that's going to get posted there that you're basically just doing a search. And maybe it's a little bit more curated, but I'm skeptical.
I mean, there's already been a bunch of posts in the help here, even from a day ago. I guess it's people just testing, but there are posts in here.
Is there?
Some as early as, 3 hours ago.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll be interested to see what happens there, but it feels very Moltbooky to me. Someone says, Moltbook for vulnerabilities. So there's a new model out from NVIDIA Nemotron 3.5 Lightning. It's an open mixture of experts model with 3 billion active parameters, built for always-on agents to complete high-volume specialized tasks faster. Delivers up to 4 times the output speed of similar-sized models.
Yeah, CodeRabbit got access to this early, and they say it's pretty good.
And you can see kind of where it compares in the benchmarks. It's, kind of middle of the road, on the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, but comparable to other small models, it does better than some that are significantly larger. Again, that's one benchmark. It's always interesting to see. Like, I haven't compared how this 30 billion parameter model compares to, Muse Glimmer that just came out.
Probably the shit. I'm going to say something stupid, but I don't really care. Like at GTC, everyone is stroking NVIDIA so hard. Like that Nemotron is like this fucking best model ever. And this is probably what's going to get me canceled. But like, none of them are judging in that, you're in a vacuum, right? You're not judging against other models. Because I remember I was trying to make a demo with Nemotron. It was like such a pain. But I've heard good things about 3.5. So my prejudice is going away.
No, we're going to actually have you use it and see if it's better than the predecessors.
Yeah, we're going to do the throw my computer out the window test. Like, if I do that, then it wasn't as good.
So you're basically saying your past history, it sucked. And now
maybe I said that.
Maybe it doesn't.
Mastra is part of the Inception program, NVIDIA Inception. I would never say that, ever.
It's always, what have you done for me lately? If this one's good, you can say the last one sucked, So this is from Unsloth AI, introducing Unsloth Desktop, the first desktop app to run and train models locally. It's open source, runs on Mac, Windows, and Linux, supports MLX, diffusion, image, video, audio, GGUF, Connect Claude Code, codecs, 50% more accurate self-healing tool calls. Essentially, you can train models locally. That's what I hear when I read this thing, which is pretty sick.
Pretty sick.
I don't know if I have the hardware to actually really use it, but it's cool in theory.
Yeah. But I like this. This is awesome. It started a new grift on X where like you're not a real software engineer if you don't train your own models. That's what people are saying now. Yeah, what are we doing, bro?
What are we doing? If you're not training your own model locally, you're not a software engineer anymore.
Dude, you're a fucking idiot, dude. What are you doing?
I would say if training your model and fine-tuning models and doing reinforcement learning on models becomes even easier, more people will do it, of course.
Yeah.
And there are real uses for it. So I'm all for making it easier. Now I just have to apparently upgrade hardware. Anthropic makes Claude 5 Sonnet intro pricing permanent. So originally they kind of touted it as very discounted pricing. I think Anthropic's as they're getting more compute online, they're buying more compute. As they're getting pressure from open models and other models that are getting close to frontier, they need to make Claude pricing cheap or Sonnet pricing cheap. My question here is, who's using Sonnet 5?
Who's using this shit?
I mean, I feel like Sonnet has become the new Haiku, right?
Yeah. I feel like Haiku is better than Sonnet for what I'm using it for,
If I need really simple things, I'll use Haiku. Otherwise, I'll end up I still use Opus a little bit. Yeah. I use Fable, but I haven't found myself reaching for Sonnet.
Dude, my new thing is I use Fable until I get rate limited, then GPT until I get rate limited, and then I'll go to Opus until I get rate limited. I'm just like working down the rate limit stack.
Is Spotify an AI company now? Because they just launched Xirp. I think that's how you pronounce it, XIRP, a vendor-neutral agentic development environment, one place to manage agent sessions across Claude, Gemini, and Codex. So 1,300 Spotify engineers already use it. Now it's available for you to try.
Do 1,300 engineers like it? That is the question.
I don't know.
Everyone's trying to build a factory. So
Spotify is trying to insert themselves into the equation of like Ramp and Stripe. If you're an engineer, you want to work for a team that's considered like cutting edge. And so I don't know. I don't think this is necessarily Spotify trying to become an AI company like I think Ramp is. Like I think Ramp's going full, we're becoming an AI company. I think Spotify is just trying to attract more engineering talent.
I feel like they should spend more time on the Spotify DJ than doing this. But that's just my opinion. Because that shit does not recommend good music for me.
Stagehand v4 was introduced on August 10th. It's the SDK for browser agents. So Playwright was built for testing. We built Stagehand for your agent with improved context management, self-healing actions, and iframe support. So I think it like lives as kind of like an extension or something in the browser. I don't know. It was pretty cool. Congrats to more friends of the show on an exciting launch.
Integrates with Mastra.
It has a good video. Go check out the video from Paul. Harvey, kind of the AI law firm company, said we're open sourcing 100 million plus token synthetic law firm we built. The firm contains work product from 250 synthetic matters across 46 clients. Essentially, it's an environment to evaluate an agent's ability to search and understand basically a law firm.
That's the real shit.
More things like this are going to exist for finance, for law, for all the things, healthcare. These are the things that actually, I think, have real world impact, right?
Exactly.
I mean, no one really wants to talk to a lawyer.
No.
I'd rather just know that my AI could answer the question for me.
Yeah.
You mean it doesn't cost me $500 an hour to talk to you? Tokens are cheaper.
With my max plan, dude, unlimited legal advice.
Unlimited legal requests.
Yeah, let's go.
And that's the show, everybody. As always, we're here every week doing the news. Make sure you're following us on X at Mastra. We're on YouTube, Mastra-AI. You can follow me at smthomas3 on X. You can follow Abhi at Abhi Iyer on X. That's the show. We did it. We did the thing.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Peace.